the All-American, the three-time All-SEC performer, and one of our standout performers, not just in Group 10, but we feel pretty good about saying in Group 11, the entire defensive back group today. It's Vernon Hargreaves. How are you, Vernon?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks. So you're pretty much done. How was the week? Did you get accomplished what you had hoped and set out to accomplish?
I did. I got all my goals that I wanted to hit. The week, it was fun. It was stressful, but, us guys, we wouldn't want to be anywhere else. This is what we do. We play ball, and it's exciting, and it was a great experience.
Speaking of playing ball and watching you throughout your time in Florida, I thought you were one of the more polished cover corners in the draft, your ability to play press and play off. Talk about your game and how you've worked to make sure that you have a complete game that allows you to play into any system.
It's all about my drive to be the best. I don't really like hearing anybody's better than me. I feel like I'm the best player, in the world, in the country, whoever you want to call it. And it's my drive to be great, and I put in the work. It starts at practice, and it's extra work after practice. Just being great, working on your technique, working on the simple things, making sure all the simple things are perfect. And the rest will play out for itself.
Now, your dad is a coach, and so obviously a lot of times as a scout, we look towards coaches' sons. We expect them to have a high football IQ. What has it been in your experience having grown up under your dad, a guy who knows football? How does that give you a step ahead of everybody else?
For most people, they would think it was all X's and O's growing up for me, but, it wasn't like that at all. We barely talk football to this day. He'll watch the game film, like when I was back at Florida. He'll watch the game film after he broke down all his film, and he'll kind of tell me on some plays I made or some plays I missed, and that was about it. For me, it was learning it by myself. Being around the game for my whole life when we were down when he coached at the University of Miami around with all the good players, the Sean Taylors of the world, the Reggie Waynes. Being around that and seeing that as a little kid, I can still remember it. And I remember how hard they worked at practice, and it was 1,000 degrees down south. And, I think that's really what made me who I am today is watching them and seeing them, because I remember it vividly.
So who's your guy? All those guys you got to see. Was there one particular that stood out to you coming up?
Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. That's my favorite player all time.
Best you ever seen?
Best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What was it about Sean Taylor that you absolutely liked or that made you gravitate towards him?
He didn't care who was on the field. He didn't care who he was playing against, who he was going up against. If he had a walk-on in front of him, walk-on behind, playing with walk-on, it didn't matter. He was going to do his thing. He was going to crush people. He was going to make plays, and he was going to show energy. And you don't see that a lot nowadays.
A lot of playing cornerback is your mentality. You talk about Sean Taylor not caring who's in front of him. A lot of times when people talk about number one corners or shutdown corners, they rarely talk about the resiliency and the toughness that it takes. Last 2 years at Florida, you were designated as the guy, so that meant you had to take on the top guy. Talk about the challenge of taking on the top guy week after week after week.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. It started early for me, though. And looking back on it now, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. The coach that recruited me at Florida, Tavares Robertson, he threw me right into the fire. He said, this is what I was going to be. This is how you have to do it. And, I kind of learned that if I'm going to do this, I have to prepare the right way. And my preparation is everything, and that's kind of how I go about it, and I look forward to the challenge. I love it. That's the spotlight is going to be on me, and that's how I want it to be.
When you mention coaches, we think of the coaching change at Florida, and I mean we saw a distinct difference between that team this year and the team the year prior. Talk about the new coaching staff that came in and maybe what adjustments they made and how that might have benefited you.
The new coaches that came in, they're great. They were awesome. They worked for us. For instance, Coach Collins came in, the new defensive coordinator, and he had some tweaks to his defense, obviously, that he ran. But he kind of sat us all down, and he asked us, okay, so what do you guys want to call this? How do you guys want to do this so there's no confusion? And, that was the best thing that he could have ever done for us because, obviously, there was no confusion, and obviously, it showed. We had one of the best defenses in the country that year, and it was great.
And going in the interview room in the process, a lot of times scouts will ask a player who they pattern their game after, who their game could resemble at the next level. Who do you offer back as the best comparison for Vernon Hargreaves?
Brent Grimes, without a doubt. That's one guy I pay close attention to, really because his resiliency, like you said, he's a 5'9" guy, 5'8" guy guarding the Calvin Johnsons, and he doesn't care. It doesn't matter. He's going to go out and compete. He's going to go get the ball at the highest point. He's going to get the ball off folks, and, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how you play corner.
How do you do it? I think that's kind of what a lot of our viewers are trying to figure out. When you mention Calvin Johnson and you think 6'4", and like you said, Brent Grimes 5'8", you come in just a shade under, right around 5'11". So how do you do it? What is the craft that you possess that allows you to play those bigger receivers?
The first thing is your preparation. How you prepare, how you practice, how well you take care of your body, and the next thing is competing. That's end of discussion. You have to compete for the ball. You got to want to compete. You got to want to cover guys like that of that caliber. And really, the main thing I just said, you got to compete.
Of the rivalry games, which one means more? Is it do they still call it the largest outdoor cocktail party? Or am I the only one that can call it that, or is it the Florida State Showdown?
Oh man,
what's the bigger one?
That's tough, right there.
I know. That's why I asked it.
Man, I can't even pick which ones, but they're the same.
They really are.
I hate to give you that answer.
They're the same.
They're both. I mean, the excitement that before the game, the pre-games, all leading up to the games. I mean, there's nothing like it. I can't really pick.
And it's funny, in talking about big games, one of the things that I used to look at, I used to love seeing how guys played in rivalry games, because you talk about the atmosphere, the big crowd, all the spotlight on you. A lot of times we believe that translates to how you're going to play at the next level. How did your experience at Florida in the SEC prepare you to have success at the next level?
You know, every game in the SEC is a big game. Everybody in the SEC can play. Everybody's fast. Everybody's strong. Everybody's physical. There are no off weeks. It doesn't matter from Vanderbilt to LSU to Alabama. It doesn't matter. You know, every game's a tough game, and if you don't prepare the right way, you'll get exposed. You'll get embarrassed.
I want to go back a couple years ago. You had the opportunity to square off with Amari Cooper, and a lot of times when I'm looking, I want to see guys play the best players. So in taking on Amari Cooper, you talk about your preparation going into the game. Kind of let us shed some light on how you prepare for a guy like Amari Cooper and how you'll take that same process going to the league.
Well, you know, my sophomore year, he wore me out. He wore me out. I was still younger. My preparation wasn't as good as it was my junior year. You know, obviously I knew who he was. I knew how good of a player he was, but I don't think I did enough film work that I was just young. I think that's what I attributed to. And, you know, to prepare for a guy like him, it's all in the mindset. All week. It starts on Monday. As soon as you break down the first game or however you go about watching film, you know, it starts at the beginning of the week and it starts in practice. You can't be no joking around. It's a serious mindset. You got to understand that he can go. He will embarrass you if you're not ready. And you know that's kind of how I go about my day. Nobody wants to get embarrassed on national TV.
So in thinking about that, Laquan Treadwell, squaring off against Laquan Treadwell and having to play him. Did that experience previously help you against a guy like Laquan?
Without a doubt, I actually give a lot of credit to Amari Cooper for getting me ready, teaching me, you know, how to prepare. You know, because obviously he's very well prepared. He takes great care of his body. He does everything the right way, and it shows in his game. And you know, I really look up to him. I want to be like him. Like a player like him, you know, just because the way he goes about his business, the way he plays, his aggressiveness, all types of things. You know, I give a lot of credit to him, which kind of developed me, not necessarily as a corner because he's a receiver, but when you play against a guy that good, you know, it sticks with you.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time, Vernon. Congratulations on all the success this far. Glad to hear that you thought it went as well as we thought it went, and we'll see you out there in Chicago.
Yep.